Hello, my name is Dr. Scott Young with Matt Moore here of Cryptocurrency, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about NESARA and the future that could really hold in there. Now, again, we're not trying to be prognosticians, but we're going to kind of give you a little hint about it. Just coming right up. Okay, so we've talked about NESARA. There's a changeover that's happening. It's already really in the works.
Sure.
It's coming down the pike. It's scary for change, so
Sure.
people freak about that
Sure.
idea. Let's talk about, and we've also talked about revaluation, which means that your money is worth more and the prices are going to go down, and that should be the most exciting process
Sure.
with that. So let's go a little further in there too, what that might mean as far as you see.
So, in my opinion, that means that we may be entering into a world on the positive side of the perspective that we would be going back to a more constitutionally based money,
Right.
Which is going to provide more prosperity overall for us. When you look at some of the societies that have existed throughout history, some of the most successful societies and growth periods in mankind has when we have used sound and hard money as part of our monetary system. This fiat money system experiment that we've been doing technically ever since the 1970s when we became a full fiat currency,
Yep.
Every time that's tried, no matter where it was, when it was, it's always eventually failed, and it actually transfers wealth from the masses to an elite few through
Right.
inflation. So
Bankruptcy, inflation, stealing of your assets, and adding of credit debt to you.
Sure.
That you're paying.
Yeah, I mean, you become a debt slave.
Yep.
But when you go back to a more sound, hard, constitutional money, you flip that system upside down on its head, and you really put constraints on the government, their spending, and that's my hope is that we move back to this, because most of the time when you're using a easy money like a fiat money, it's easy to pay for social programs to buy votes. It's easy to go to war
Right.
and pay for things, pay for destruction and death. But just as hard money, a hard money system puts restraints and more rigorous efforts on the loaning process for individuals and,
Right.
and banks, it also does that for countries in what they have to pay for. Because if the country wants to pay for it, they actually have to tax the people, not
Yes.
just create more money out of thin
Yeah.
air, creating inflation.
Yeah.
And so, as we move into this, and that's my hope, because I do think the bad guys have a plan and the good guys have a plan. But we also have something called cryptocurrency, which is going to allow competition in money.
Yes.
Because I think whenever you have competition in the marketplace, you have really good things happen. And if the government wants to maintain trust and faith, they're going to be incentivized to keep sound and good money, or these other systems of decentralization are going to go around them, and people are going to use them instead.
Well, let's deal with a cool part of cryptocurrency that I think that whether it's Bitcoin, which is the basic one that
Yep.
had a great process, and we have XRP,
Yep.
and potentially the rainbow currency that is massively gold backed. And guys, you don't understand. There is a gold-backed currency that has more money built into the system. I could get into, and I do talk a little about this in NESARA and the Mark of the Beast, about monies that you can't imagine that were available. Solomon-level gold that's backed out there that we've never seen on the market. But so as we talk about the cryptocurrency, we have countries like Zimbabwe.
Sure.
Who have been raped and pillaged of the people who are, digging in mines for us to have, our iPhones.
Yep.
When they have diamonds galore.
Sure.
And those people need to have access to that. And you go and see the cabal hates this because they want to enslave everyone. But when you have Zimbabwe who comes up to the table and says, we have our diamond-backed currency and we can afford things, what happens is that America doesn't have to give them any money. Mm-hmm. No one has to give them any money. And if we don't have to give them any money, then it reduces our taxation levels. And by the way, the IRS is going to die in this whole thing. But you're going to have a small amount of tax really from a sales tax, which is a consumption-based tax.
Yep.
But one of the cool parts of the cryptocurrency is that they're going to start buying from one another. And it makes it fair because more people are going to be a part of that system, and they're going to have competition, which drives down the pricing from an international level.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about what you see with some of that.
With the cryptocurrency?
Yeah, with the cryptocurrency from an international level thing too.
Yeah, so what cryptocurrency does allow for is obviously it increases speed and security for transactions and settlements. And let's hypothetically say that each country, because a lot of countries are moving in this direction. You've got China just rolled out their own cryptocurrency. You've got other countries that are working on their own version of a cryptocurrency. But whether it is a cryptocurrency that is issued from a government or whether it's a free market cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, what it does is, you've got essentially these two systems evolving. You've got a more centralized system and a more decentralized system, and then it's going to create competition in the money system. But global trade between individuals is going to become much, much easier because you have less hoops to jump through. Transactions can be sent in a matter of seconds across the globe. And since blockchain provides this system of trust and consensus, and even with things called smart contracts, which are basically programmable contracts built on blockchain so that when A and B happens, C happens. And so there's going to be more global trade and around the world between individuals, especially as we move into a more networked and connected society. But that's kind of been my mission is like, hey, globalization is not necessarily a bad thing as long as we have options and choices and competition,
and we don't.
And
it's not Marxist. This Marxist crud that's happening now. We can't have a elite few that are controlling it. It has to be the people.
It has to come from the bottom up.
Right, and when it happens that way, so I'm gonna put it in a slightly different way. So there are two basic types of business types from a retail standpoint. Okay, there is a high volume, low profit businesses. Okay, well, that would be like a hardware store. Okay, they have a lot of stuff, but and so they have to have a lot of people walking in the door. Grocery stores have the same thing. Okay, they got to have a lot of people come in the door, and they have a low amount of profit. Okay, so they better get a lot of people. Their other kind of system is a little bit more in like audiology, okay? And in our field, we're a high profit, but it's actually a lower volume of people because fewer people can do that. But what can happen here is this. If more people, so let's just do the first one, the high volume, low profit people. How does that work when you have more people to the market? How does that help that high volume, low profit kind of people?
So, when you have more competition, prices are going to drop, and then also, it's going to create more affordability for stuff if that's what you're getting.
And more people are showing up into that marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what happens on the other end of the scale when you have, because mine's a high service kind of point. We don't have, we have a top 10 point. It's not people coming in and getting their thing and driving away. It's not McDonald's, okay? It takes more service. But what happens is that when we can fractionally pull up the number of people that can get from a little bit more volume, the pricing can go down. And so it becomes much more, it becomes more profitable, and both systems can become more profitable. Right?
Yeah.
So that means more people to the market and less people sucking off of the market.
Sure, and I mean, there's a high level of people around the world that are considered unbanked.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, if you really look at the math, which I don't have the numbers right in my head, but it's significant. And when you've got technologies like cryptocurrency, and if you, let's say you have governments that are going to back these currencies by, hard assets, it's going to allow somebody to simply have just a mobile phone.
Yep.
and be their own bank.
Yep.
And be able to transact with anybody over the internet. I mean, that's in the cryptocurrency space. There's a motto called "Be your own bank,"
Yep.
And you really don't need a middleman in order to transact with somebody. You don't need permission. You can participate on the network without permission, depending on which cryptocurrency you're using. And so I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right. So I think one of the things that we struggle with right now in this political environment that is so messed up, with this, is that you have left-wing people that are saying, we need to have free education and, a more free stuff. Basically, what they're asking is affordability.
Yeah.
I'm in a poverty state. Then we have people on the right wing that say, stop stealing from me.
Yep.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
stop stealing from me and let me do this kind of thing. Okay? The reality is, when we move to this system, this is the cool thing, guys. I don't care if you're left or right wing. Now, colleges don't cost as much.
Yep.
And when we have this, once we defund the Fed, and we can basically defund the Fed and defund all this debt issues from, whether it's Zimbabwe's debt that we've manipulated, the Federal Reserve and the central bankers have devalued. Once they don't have any more debt, they're going, hey, wait, we can now afford things.
Sure.
So the poor go from poor up through the middle class ranks.
Yeah.
And people can rise based upon a performance system.
Sure.
Right? And then people that are middle class can go up another notches. And people in the higher class can go up more notches, and it's all based upon the performance.
Sure.
And when we have more money into the system, holy cow.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, when you do that too, it cleans up the marketplace with not rewarding bad behavior and malinvestments. And so, a lot of the unfairness that we see today and a lot of the wealth gap that we see today happens because of the fiat money system, because of all the money creation, because there's an elite few up top that get to decide how much money is created, what interest rates are set at, and then whoever's closest to that elite group.
Yeah,
get
you
that money
scratch my
first.
back, I'll scratch yours. This is stupid.
Yeah.
This is the stupid thing. And I know Matt's dealt with this. I've dealt with this as a business owner in the Tulsa area. I mean, I see these companies, whether they're not necessarily just competition. I'm not trying to beat that up. But I don't like unfair competition.
Yep.
Where it's like, why does he get that contract when, that should be a fairly based point of contracting kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at central banking today, and when you look at the governments and how they act, and with the monetary system, it's a centralized planned thing. It's a very communistic thing, and when you have that, you undermine the free market, and so it's not that I'm against free markets. I'm for free markets. It's just that I am not for an elite group of people getting to decide for you and I how much money gets created into existence, what interest rates are set at, because they're all knowing, they're all powerful, and they know all the right people.
Right.
Like,
so I think one of the things that we have to see too is the cabal has Agenda 21.
Yep.
There's also Plan 2030, I think it is. But these Agenda 21, do you know what the Agenda 21 really is? The Agenda 21 is that no one can afford anything. It's all taken away from you. We're all sitting in a commune. And you go, oh, that'd be great.
It's communism.
It's communism, but here's what happens. I would just get a bunk. I would have no personal wealth. And you go, that would be great. But guess what? You're not going to have any of the cool things. No air conditioning, because you can't have the climate change issues and all these other things that are coming out. And you have a central few that comes out. And that's when you have massive oppression. The value of life is nothing. We need to have it so the poor can move up a level. I'm thinking of people right now. You can think of people who have this left-leaning issue and they're poor. They need to be risen out of that system. And the way to rise them out of the system is not have them hooked into the system.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Africa, much of the people down there, not only are their lands being raped and pillaged, but they are discriminated against in capital markets.
Right.
You know, so it's like,
why can't they come to the market and go, you know what? I got a great product. I have the diamonds to do it, and we have to go, yes, sir. You know, kind of thing. We have to honor that. And what that does is, again, it brings up more people that can afford things. And when more people can afford things, they will purchase it based upon their ability to do it. And that just makes more possibilities. So we're talking about adding millions of new jobs that are not just the cruddy ditch digger kind of thing. We're talking about higher paid jobs that can do more things, and we can afford more, and we start finding, wait a second, we're not in that slavery part too.
Yeah, and I would say too, you know, when you go into a world that, you know, with this reevaluation or this reset, and then you throw in the combination of increasing in the technology and in a form of artificial intelligence, whether you're for or against, the truth is, the more that this takes place, jobs will evolve, and you will be freed up to be able to choose, you know, I'm really good at this, I really enjoy this, I'm going to do this instead of a job that I really hate. But on top of that, it's going to, like, our economy is going to go into a more attention-based economy. It's going to go into more of, you know, how can I provide value and help to other people?
Right.
As machines do more of the tedious tasks that, you know, will free us up. I mean, that's what technology has done all the time for us.
Correct. And I think I want to kind of pull our end. We're going to spend the last, you know, about 10 minutes or so talking a little bit about an area of both of us are believers in Christ. And one of the things that is a scary part. Now, when you introduce any change, most people look at change and go, right? You know, they're freaking about the change. But let me share something with you. You know, the Bible actually says in Luke 12, one of my favorite chapters, is that when Christ comes down and he does an accounting through Luke 12, about 35 through 48, he's doing an accounting part, and he's saying when he finds the people doing. And what that actually means in the Greek is that you're not just doing, you're doing business. You're doing the things. If you're a debt slave and you're going to 3 jobs and, you know, single mom kind of thing, that isn't doing necessarily. That's just surviving. And what we're talking about is that there is going to be a part in time where you're going to see, for a time frame, we're going to see an increase of standard, you know, that will make a difference. But here's the thing. Some people have gone and said, we're going to just move right into 1,000-year millennial reign. And I'd say, guys, that ain't the case, because the Bible is true. It has to be fulfilled. We don't get this idea to say, you get to cut it out and the end time issues don't happen. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of that stuff too? Your feeling on that?
Let's go ahead. I mean, I think that in order for a, you know, whether you call it a great revival or whether you call it the great reset or the great harvest, there's going to have to be a time period where, you know, things seem really up and good, and I think that's for a purpose. I think that's for a restoration. I think that's for, there's a lot of things that line up with that, but to say that the enemy is taken care of for good and forever,
he's done, right?
Yeah, there's still going to be evil in the world, and we still have to be intentional, and we can't be lackadaisical, and we have to be mindful, and we have to be diligent. I mean, we have to be good stewards. You know, like, if we're not good stewards, we're going to end up in the same crap that we were before.
Yeah, we're going to be in a debt stool in essence, you know. And I think I think what I believe is going to happen over the next several years is we're going to see this rise in standards. But unfortunately, one of the things that happens to people after you start to get used to the cool rise in standards, evil starts coming out. We start to value. I mean, there's still jealousies.
Sure.
And jealousies are going to take people over. And we're going to have, I mean, it's going to come down the road. It's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah.
But it'll be a point in time down the road that we're going to find the Bible will still come true. Because we're not just going to a better state. That is anti-biblical. We're going to have 29% of Scripture does talk about end time issues. And that means that we have to come to a Christ state.
Yeah.
And we don't get to come to the Christ state without Jesus coming back a second time.
Well, and you would know this better than I would, but it says like the end times will be like the days of Noah, when people are lovers of self, and it's like, well, how do you become a lover of self? Well, obviously times are good.
Yep.
Times are prosperous. You think you are God, and it's like you've got to have. I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily good times have to come in order for us to usher in the beast, but I mean,
it's a little part of it.
Part of it, I mean,
it does have to happen, and I mean. I know a lot of prophecy teachers right now are tipping over. They're freaking out about this thing. How does this mean? What is and a lot of people kind of pushing me on this area, but I got to tell you that God's plans aren't disrupted by the world.
Sure.
This election isn't a disruption to His plans. Okay, a value reset is only to release the people from this part. And I always say it like this. Mark Hitchcock has a book called The End, and he states in there that the Satan's always got his Antichrist in his back pocket.
Yeah.
And he wants to whip him out. Is it time? Well, it's not time. Is it time? It's not time.
Yep.
And it gets this struggle in there. And here's the reality. He's going to whip it out at the right time.
Sure.
Only when Jesus says he's allowed to.
Sure.
So therefore, just because we're going into a situational change that is going to be really good for the world, there still are jealousies. It doesn't take away that sin nature in there.
Yeah. And I would emphasize too, no matter what you believe, no matter what you see coming, if you're a believer in Christ, whether it's good times or bad times, I don't care. Be diligent.
Right.
Be vigilant. Have your eyes open. Do your homework. Ask questions. Always be learning.
Right.
And don't let your guard down.
And I think a lot of people know we talk about woke, and I like to talk about it from a different standpoint that we're talking about. We're talking about being awoken.
Sure.
Awaken, excuse me. But woke is now the new sports and all these things that where they're the BLM and Antifa and all this other kind of crazy things with that too. But frankly, they're talking about things. The people on the bottom of the rung here are really talking about things that they want to see happen. That we're really coming to, guys. We're coming to that. So we're really going together, and it's not really separated. Who wants us separated? It's the cabal.
Sure.
The spirit of Antichrist is in 2 Thessalonians. That's still gonna come. There's gonna be a point in time where it's gonna happen.
Sure.
But it's a while off with that still. Yeah. So I think this is a great time for us to look at this. But Matt said it perfectly. This is a time for you to study this stuff.
Yep.
My sister called me, and I'll leave this on this one point. She has spent a lot of time in the Q movement and what it means and how it means, but she struggled with this crunch that she's feeling, and she didn't want to fill out the PPP loan because she was worried that it would put her in the government system more.
Sure. Yeah.
And she didn't want to do this and that and all these other little things. And here's the reality: is what she was struggling with is that she didn't understand the financial reset.
Yeah.
And we've heard this conversation quite a bit. People are scared of the financial reset, including some Q movement people. But guess what? It's the plan of Trump to be able to do that.
Sure.
And the problem that's never happened is that we've never had this. We've
Sure.
never taken sweep the legs off of the cabal.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Scott, as much as I pray and hope that all happens, and I believe it will, I am a type of person that I do my studying and I know which door goes where. And so if I'm well equipped enough, you should not be in fear. The Lord does not give you a spirit of fear.
Right.
And the truth is, no matter what happens,
Exactly.
if you know what you know and you're doing your homework and you're being alert and you're paying attention, you know how to protect yourself. You know how to preserve and prosper. The Lord will guide you. Just ask God, ask the Holy Spirit to lead you and to prepare you. And the preparations that I've made in my life, whether we enter into this wonderful world that I hope that Trump really does pull through for us, or whether it's the world of the cabal, I am prepared for both because what I have done will make me prosper in both.
Yeah, and I think that's always the case.
Yeah.
That's always the case. So I guess the thing that we have to leave you with is counterbalance, because the word is a veritas. It's the truth. It's verifiable with this too. There will be an end time because jealousy doesn't get taken away. Sin nature's got to be dealt with in all in one. And this isn't dealing with the sin nature.
Sure.
This is it's going to quell some of the silliness, but for a time. It's always for a time, because there's always, as Matt and I've talked about here before, it's like the pendulum swinging. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that pendulum swing, and I'm very confident that this NESARA, the point of freedom and debt release has to happen. But we have to sweep the legs from a financial standpoint.
Sure.
Because if you don't sweep the legs, I don't care if you talk about these ugly pedos, these ugly situations that we've seen. If you don't sweep the legs out of them, they have enough money. They'll just walk their way out of the system. They'll find a way to get it out. So we've got the mainstream media against this thing. They're not getting listened to as either.
Sure.
By the way, new statistics are they only trusted by 6% of the people.
Yeah, I believe it.
And all these people in Hollywood, that is less than that. It's about 4%.
Wow.
And and government is even about 2%. So you got these people that really, they're screaming the loudest, but they're actually listened to the least.
It's the fourth turning is what it is, because that's, there's a book out there about the fourth turning when authorities and power structures, all people lose confidence in it. And there's a period of chaos, but then out of that chaos comes a reorganization.
Right.
And I think that's what we're experiencing right now is the failure and lack of confidence in authority.
Right, and I think so. As we see this, you're gonna have to do number one thing. So this is the number one thing I'm gonna leave you with. You need to be investigating what Matt's talking about. His ability to understand some blockchain. I predicted on air with him that he is gonna be I don't want to say prophet in a horrible, weird way.
A messenger?
But a messenger, maybe, of a teacher with that. He's going to be a teacher of money. You need to relearn what money is. It's not the gross and boring thing that we always talk about. It's not the evil that happens. It's the love of money that is the root of the evil.
Yep.
And so you need to understand what it's doing. And I think Matt Moore can really help you. So in CryptoMore.com, I keep messing that up. So CryptoMore.com and with his book called Foundations for Liberty, a 91-page book that will help you see some of those areas. And I think, if you're sitting out there thinking about it, you need to be asking him questions.
Yep.
And looking at that, because if you have a church, you have a group of people that need to understand it. I think that's where we're coming to. And my area is really a focus is on money, end time issues, and the truth of the word. So those are areas that I think God's really going to be releasing us all into. So I just say to you this: dream and dream big.
Amen.
Let's dream big things and see the Lord, meet us there.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you know what? says in the Word, so a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, and life and death are in the power of the tongue. So, like he said, be positive, be prayerful, be intentional.
So thank you so much. Check us out. Go ahead and subscribe to us. We appreciate it.